Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Looks Like We Made It. I'm Issy Howell and I'm joined by Managing Director and Creative Industry Expert Chris to talk all things video marketing. We are the father and daughter who run the video production company Howell Film, and each week we will be discussing all sorts like what happens behind the scenes on our projects, getting results from your video content, how to start using video in your business, and plenty more to come. We're always up for candidly conversing about creativity. On this episode we are answering the question, how much of your marketing should be video? So without further ado, let's get started, and of course never miss an episode every Tuesday by giving us a follow or subscribe, as well as finding Howell Film on Instagram and LinkedIn. Let's go!
Let's go. Well, this is a short one, all of it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Well, don't should it though? Because that's the thing.
Because it shouldn't. It's a mix.
So let's cast our minds back.
Are you going to go back to the early days?
Before I was even alive?
Okay.
Where did it all begin?
Where did it all begin?
Yeah, where did it all begin before we ended up doing what we're doing now?
Is this? Are we turning this into a kind of a history?
Cast your minds back.
The business or the industry.
Your place in the industry, your experience of the industry, when you had hair when you started. So
I did have hair. I had long hair, believe it or not. Now I'm just a slaphead. So back in the day, my first job was I used to put borders on adverts using black tape, which was border tape. It wasn't thrilling, but it didn't involve a scalpel and some funny people, so that was quite a laugh.
That's all you need for a good industry.
So then I was upgraded from border boy to actually making adverts.
Who do you think?
This is all for printed media.
Just saying, who do you think puts the borders on our videos now?
Oh, I don't know. they're probably like some AI border machine that adds them. So over the years, 30 odd, blimey, is it that long? I've had a stab at most things, and some have been okay at, others less so. But in essence, it's always been a visual thing, a creative visual experience. So, something that looks nice and does a job, delivers a message, hopefully in a kind of innovative, dynamic and thrusting manner, and people go, wow, that kind of is cool and does its thing. What is quite interesting though is that there's a natural fashion and a natural ebb and flow to the creative world, and it is and things do come around, and flares come and go and all the rest of it, but it's weird that you look back at trends and you look back at how stuff was designed back in the day, and each decade has a look and a feel, and then there's almost like a retroness that bleeds through as well. So perhaps stuff I was designing in the early 90s is kind of back. Okay, good. We just had a slight studio malfunction. Okay, I'm gonna.
It was your arm falling off.
It was, yeah.
It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah. Right,
Carry
let's
on.
go back. So anyway, back to so what I was going to say is that stuff I was designing and getting involved with in the early 90s.
It's quite trendy.
Is
now,
almost
actually,
like back on message.
Yeah.
However,
yeah.
and that I take pedantry quite seriously. That the skills that I learned way back in the day, I believe are really vital now. So, the essence of good design doesn't change.
Yeah.
And I also believe, which is something I've been heard to mention a few times over the past 500 years, is people have a sixth sense for quality, and that bleeds through to all things creative. So whether that's graphic design, whether that's a TV advert, whether that's a billboard, whatever it might be, you can't quite put your finger on it, but people have a sixth sense for quality. And I believe, sorry, I know you want to jump in, but I believe that's about the stuff you don't see. That's about the graphic designer poring over the kerning, brackets, the relationship between characters, close brackets, poring over the kerning of some type
Yeah.
and actually, really, really, and in reality, you'd say, well, who cares? Who notices? But I think people do. I think that typography, I think that the way images are built, the way that a message is delivered, that's the essence. That's what makes the difference between someone bashing something out in Word or whatever, going, oh, there you go, I've designed this myself, to someone who's actually doing it, and they know why they're doing it. And the other thing about it, and I'm off on one here now, is you always, proper designers, people that do it for real, do it for a living, know what they know why they're doing it. They don't just lob stuff at a screen hoping something's going to stick, and there might be something that's kind of appealing. There's a process. There's a kind of like, well, I know that the layout of this, and I know that the composition of this is right, because there are rules around layout and composition that are appealing to the human mind and eye. That the designer has a plan, and I think that is vital for any creative journey you go on.
I like that, and I like how you topped it off by swinging your arm around.
I swung my arm around earlier and smashed something off the desk. So.
Nothing expensive, thankfully. No, and that's a really, it's genuinely interesting, because in that sense, designers and editors are quite similar in the sense that, yes, there is a creative element, but there is a massive element of organization and having quite a technical and deliberate eye in anything that you produce. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most about what you were saying is that in the earlier days, marketing content would be consumed at quite a slower pace. You'd read a brochure, you'd sort of look at a billboard, you might look at a newspaper article, but now the way that we consume other people's marketing or approach other industries or businesses is that they might only have a snapshot of a second to catch your eye. So if you're going on Instagram and you want to check out a business or a restaurant or whatever it is, you tend to just hop on there, have a quick look, and then you have a quick glance, and then you go, oh yeah, it's good, or that, oh no thank you. And sometimes when the content looks really homemade, or it doesn't look right, or it's just bashed together in the worst way and it just looks clunky, your eye and that whole thing of a sixth sense for quality, that's literally the only impression that customer might have had across the entire board. They might not, back in the day, if your website was all you really had, people would take time to go on your website and look at it and look around. But now it's a immersive, multi-platform experience that you have to catch the eye of your consumer at any given point. You have to be ready at every turn, every door they open. You have to be stood behind, going, "I'm great," all the time. It's more. There's more facets. It's multifaceted.
I love the way you said back in the day you only had your website.
It's true,
I'm talking about. Before when colour was invented,
was everything black and white?
Yeah, everything was black and white. That's what people don't realise, that back in the 60s, there was no colour. Everything actually was black and white.
Well, that's it. Did you? Yeah. Well, that's. By back in the day, I mean in my day.
Okay.
Which
right.
I can say now.
What I will say is just a quick comment as well, was that previous sort of incarnations of the kind of like creative to deliver a message around a business, you had very fixed, very set tools at your disposal. So as an example, you had a brochure. Everybody had a brochure. And then the differentiating factor in that was how good your brochure was.
Yeah.
And everybody had a logo. Everybody had, some form of, advertising. So it was either in the local paper, in a magazine or whatever, or a poster. But it was a known. Everything was known. It was kind of like, it doesn't matter what business if you're a big company, if you're a big, massive petroleum company or whatever, you still only had those things at your disposal. You might have done some advertising, you might have sponsored some racing car teams or whatever, but ultimately,
that's all you had.
The creative person had to take the brochure and go, okay, let's do it a different size. Let's introduce a bit of I don't know, gold foiling, or let's do something tactile with the paper, or let's try something new. But ultimately, it was still a brochure.
Yeah.
Whereas
everyone was operating.
Everyone was operating within a known. It was a kind of like
interesting.
you didn't like my best. Back in the day when I was a graphic designer. And it was all literally designed for print, designed for billboards, designed for magazines, whatever. There's a technical side where you don't want to mess up printing because it's expensive and you're stuck with it. You don't want to get.
You can't just delete
you don't
it
want to.
and
No,
go
exactly.
again.
You don't can't just delete it and go again or update it. That's the other weird thing as well. Now we put stuff together, and the client goes, "Yeah, it's great. We'll pump that out. We'll put that advert out now." But we might come back to it in 3 weeks' time and do another version. It was never like that back in the day. It was kind of like you're producing 10,000 brochures at a significant cost. That brochure's got to keep working for you for the next year, and you probably wouldn't even ever go back to it. So my point was that everything was in a known framework, whereas now you can deliver a message about your organization, about your product, about what you're about as a commercial entity on literally loads of platforms. It can be a digital thing, it can be a print thing, it can be a something in video, it can be animation, it can be literally, and then you even dig down even further. You go, okay, I'm going to put together a reel and some animation, and I'm going to bang it out there. Well, you might have 5 or 6 or 8 platforms to put that out on.
Yeah.
And that is something that, old dinosaurs, old fossils like me, we've had to kind of like really, really adapt and really drag ourselves into it and really sort of believe in this. Whereas someone like you and even younger people, dare I say,
What do you mean? I'm very young.
yeah, it's kind of second nature.
Yeah.
And I always, and I'm not trying to sort of like say, oh God, I'm over the hill or whatever, because I'm not. I'm a vibrant, dynamic, young go-getter. However, I always refer back to how stuff would look in print, or I get hung up about like kind of the detail, whereas the pace now, the detail still needs to be there, but the pace, the energy, we might produce something on a Monday, and its lifespan is gone by Wednesday. It's done its job, and you're on to the next thing.
And how much do you pour over it? I mean, that's where I think our multi-generational business approach kind of weirdly comes in very handy, is because I've got the eye for social media. I know how it works. I've grown up with social media essentially since I was 10. It was around, and I've when you get used to using it every day of your life for 10 years, obviously you get really good at using it and knowing how things work and how it ticks, and knowing what kind of content that people want to see, the kind of stuff that's trendy and that you want to put out. But having those fundamental design, the essence of design, the basics of it, the things that really do make things look good is essential, because I know when I want to make a post and I want to make something look good that gets likes, and that's really my goal, is to make sure people look at us and go, wow, they know what they're doing. It's great to have someone there who says, ooh, that's a inching mark and not a speech mark, and that's something that you go, actually, but those little details still work even on social media. It may be a bit like when you drive past a billboard and people may only just scroll past our post and go, oh, that looks good, but the reality is that I'd rather them do that than go, oh god, that looks awful. And that's really where that kind of knowledge from the past comes in.
What is brilliant
from the
now,
past? That sounds awful when I said that. I don't mean that.
I'm quite conscious that our listeners probably think I'm like some
wheeled you in,
wizened, gnarled old man. I'm not quite, but the brilliant thing nowadays is that you can try stuff. I love the fact that you can say, okay, we're going to do some advertising, we're going to do some promotional stuff, whether it's a post, whether it's some advertising, whatever platform you choose. And you think to yourself, well, actually, what I'll do is I won't do one advert, I'll do 3. And because all the performance metrics are available, you go, okay, well, I can understand which advert worked better for me, and then I'll develop 3 more adverts as a kind of an offshoot of that advert. And I think that kind of highly targeted, delivering a message that is actually designed and created for your target market, I think that's absolutely brilliant.
And it's the data that you wouldn't normally, I mean, I suppose when you would put an ad in the newspaper or you'd print a brochure and stuff, you'd say, oh, we sent all 10,000 out, but you don't know how many of those really ended up in the bin, really, or what the end game or the data out of that was.
Yeah, I mean, but again, people talk about an awareness campaign. It's great to have an awareness campaign. Well, that's just vanity. That's in my opinion, in a sense, you don't want an awareness campaign. What you want to do is you want to share your message to the audience that's already listening.
Yeah.
That's what is amazing about kind of highly targeted advertising now. And again, some of the AdSmart adverts that we work on for Sky, that's incredible that they deliver targeted TV advertising to an audience that has already been defined by their habit.
And it's so specific as well.
It's
it gets so specific.
Yeah. Incidentally,
yes.
Talking about my age, I seem to get quite a lot of like over 50s retirement and lots of like cremation things and funeral stuff. So
life insurance.
Exactly, life insurance.
You know.
So but anyway, moving on, I think that is brilliant. That you can deliver something that's relevant to that, because everything's not relevant to everybody.
And I think, that's an interesting point.
Apart
because
from
funerals. That's a very specific market they're selling to. But when it says, back to our question, of which I don't know if we've covered, of how much your marketing should be video, in that sense then, we've talked about how print, obviously, and the essence of design, traditional design for the past few decades is essential. How much? So if you are a company now and you've got some social media platforms, you've got a website, you've got like an email newsletter or whatever it may be, and you have a brochure or a few leaflets. How much
have you gone back in time now?
I know, but what I'm saying is that it's, even though they're traditional and quite old fashioned in the grand scheme of things, do you still have them? Should we all be 100% video, or how does it work?
It depends.
Oh, yes.
I've got it in there.
Yes.
It depends.
I love it. Carry on.
Yeah, and It Depends mugs and T-shirts will be available shortly.
You're wearing your It Depends hat right now.
Yeah. What I will say, it's about the blend. It's about getting the blend right. You shouldn't have all of anything. Because if you have all of anything, and then you've got all your eggs in one basket. I think it should be a blended solution. I think that the what's right for your business is not necessarily right for someone else's business. The message you're delivering, video, brilliant, because you know, as we know, and everybody knows us, we are, you know, evangelical in our belief that video marketing is the future of everything. However, it's about getting that balance right. Yeah. I think it's inevitable. It's going to become increasingly dominant which is good for us. Which is, you know, I think it's going to become increasingly dominant but then I think that what's happening now though is that people are using, say, printed material as the quality option. So they're not having to bang out leaflets and tons of stuff, but they might have a really quality brochure. But the actual video content, I think, is increasing, but I still think it depends on your organisation. Well,
I think that the thing that stands out to me, particularly whenever we kind of talk about video marketing or someone asks me what it is, I mean, that happens quite a lot as well. People still exercising those sort of more traditional forms of marketing and haven't quite gone into this realm yet. And when we hark on about video marketing, or there's, you know, podcast marketing, email marketing, all these types of marketing, digital marketing, social media marketing, it goes on and on and on, is that some marketing... So it's either a marketing resource or a marketing platform. And I think there's certain things that can be separated into the platform element, which is it is literally a place for you to talk about what you do, or it's a resource to put on that platform to make that platform even better. So it's things like, I don't know, if you're thinking about email marketing, that is a platform that you promote on, but then video marketing is creating content, it's creating amazing resources and tools and information that you can then put on these platforms that is really important. So it's not just making a bunch of videos and then just sitting there with them on your computer. It's about making resources that go onto the platforms that you've already got.
Excellent. What I will say, and you're right, what I will say is that the percentage for any business, any organisations doing anything should be more than no percent. Everybody.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. I'm not saying every business should be 70% video marketing. Every business should be 90% video marketing. Every business should be 100% video marketing. What I am saying is no business should be no percent video marketing.
I like that, because at the end of the day, and also sometimes it isn't down to percentages. Sometimes it's down to...
Yeah, you might like my percentage line.
No, I know, but...
that no percent thing was great.
It's great, but what I mean is that sometimes when you're in a creative industry that is focused on targeting results and getting measurable results, and weirdly we have to tread that line between being creative and being data driven by, I want to get more views, I want to get more likes, I want to get this, that and the other, is that sometimes creativity can't be held down by data, and you have to sort of you have to almost pick your focus and swing with it and run with it.
I agree. And the MD in me says that yes, I want more likes and I want more eyeballs and I want more interaction, but actually what I want is more paying work.
Yeah,
because there's another side of this, which is the commercial reality, that you might have the most interesting stuff in the world, and people might go, "That's brilliant, that's lovely, I'll share all that." But ultimately, as a dear friend and former business advisor would say, can you put it in the bank, Chris?
Yeah, well, there you
go. That's a whole different topic.
And that's it. And I think that's the thing. It's finding that balance, and that's where people like us, I guess, come in, is being able to understand those needs in terms of, I need to get more likes or I need to achieve this, but along the way make that process creative.
Yeah. And you want to hear the till ring at some point.
Oh yes, we don't actually have a till, but
because ultimately that you can't get away from the fact that that's what business is about.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's we can that's the reality, I suppose, behind all of this.
Commercial then, didn't I?
Yeah, but it's fine. It's okay. We can work with it. But okay, I mean, so last thing then, I don't know, I have a question for you, so I'm going to open this thing up to call it
You
Pedants.
always have a question for
I know,
me.
but this time I'm going to call it Pedants Corner,
no.
which is essentially a thing that I've now introduced, which
Pedantry.
is where you have a chance to vent about something that, as someone who's been in the industry a long time, can slightly be pedantic about, but something that people, when they're creating content, should really think about, that they may never have thought about before.
Okay, so this is a new feature, Pedant's Corner.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a foot mark and an inch mark and an apostrophe
and that
a speech
blew my
mark.
mind. I've been using them wrong my entire life.
I'm sorry. Well, you see it everywhere. And basically, only me and the other 3 graphic designers in the world that care will notice these things. However, there's a whole load of... You see, what people don't realise is that you've got 26 characters and you've got your numbers and stuff. Most font families have got like 80 or 90 characters in there. And in there are all the accents, all the apostrophes, all the key things. I mean, don't get me onto ellipses.
But I mean,
3 dots is not an ellipsis.
So when you... What?
Well, people just go, 3 dots, 1, 2, 3. There's a keyboard shortcut for that.
Is there?
There is.
Jesus! Wow. Okay. So because I've obviously been using inching marks.
I've actually made. Sorry to jump in.
Yeah,
I've actually made
a
graphic to demonstrate this that I put on LinkedIn, and then that was like a hornet's nest. I stirred up there because in some industries they do use foot marks and inching marks, and people have come back and said, hey, pedantry.
I've realised that. So to help people in figuring this out, on an Apple keyboard, how do you actually get a set of speech marks?
Well, if you, I'd say for argument's sake, you were to hit Shift, Option, and a closed or open bracket, you might come across some speech marks.
Why didn't they make it easier? We use speech marks
They're
more
not
than
speech
inching
marks.
marks.
They're inching marks.
I know, but we use them more.
But when a keyboard,
My mind is blown.
When a keyboard was created, people used to use inch marks and foot marks because everything was measured in that, and there was a need to do that, and it's just a legacy that still sits on the keyboard.
But someone just one day
it's apostrophes. Apostrophes are the key thing. People just hit that straight line.
So how do you get an apostrophe?
Well, you just do more of the same. You just do Shift, Alt, Command, and then use an open or close bracket.
That's insane. Well, but that is interesting though, because that.
And there's millions more. I mean, don't.
Well, this is why we've made it a platform.
This iceberg has got a long way down.
But it's things like that those little tiny bits of detail that you can make a change that will make someone like you warm. The soul will warm when you walk past it or you look at it, but it's those kind of little details that do make a massive difference. So thank you. That was good being in Pedant's Corner. I enjoyed it. I do, because I think you've got a list. You can start forming a list now that you can vent.
An old man rants. It's fantastic.
I like it. Well, I'm going to stick with Pedant's Corner. So that's it for today. And if you do want to kind of find out more about what we do and you want to see some of our really cool reels and stuff we've been putting on Instagram and LinkedIn, then do have a look. Anything that we talk about, we do try and show as well and set an example. So if there's anything that you want to see, then do check us out there. Or you can find us on www.howellfilm.co.uk, where you can listen to our podcast, and you can listen to it wherever you like, particularly where you're listening to it right now. So you can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you would, and also if you have a question for us to answer, then please let us know. So we'll see you next week. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.